On this Thursday night, they quit. 4 more federal Liberal cabinet ministers are not seeking re-election.
It's a decision that I've been reflecting on for a while.
Why they're leaving and what it means for a party unpopular in the polls. Why won't the federal Conservative leader get top security clearance? The former head of CSIS on whether his reasons are legit. Israel assassinates the leader of Hamas. Will his death mean the end of the war in Gaza? And a worker who doesn't take any sick days or vacations.
I'll be available 24/7.
The company that cloned an employee into an AI-powered avatar.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There is more turmoil in the upper levels of the federal Liberal government. 4 more cabinet ministers have announced they are on their way out and do not intend to run for re-election. Their departure will trigger a cabinet shuffle, and it adds to the pressure on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, whose popularity is at a low point. Even some of his own caucus members are quietly beginning to question his leadership. David Akin is following developments for us. David.
Well, Donna, none of the ministers resigning their posts are what you'd call cabinet's heavy hitters or part of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's inner circle. The ministers resigning include Philomena Tassi, a Hamilton area MP who had been minister for the Regional Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario.
Now the situation is that it's important that I'm closer to home. So that's completely what this decision is rooted in.
Through collaboration and
Dan Vandel, a Winnipeg area MP, is also resigning his posts, including as Minister for Northern Affairs. The Revenue Minister, Marie-Claude Bibeau, she is leaving. She's expressed an interest in running for the mayor of Sherbrooke, Quebec.
My constituency office.
Finally, Carla Qualtrough, the Sport Minister, who represents a riding in BC's Lower Mainland, is resigning. The cabinet shuffle to replace them, a government source says, will be in the, quote, coming weeks, end quote. That's possibly after the U.S. election. In the meantime, an Ottawa area MP is warning his caucus colleagues trying to unseat Trudeau to stop it. MP Chandra Arya wrote that though he believes Trudeau has taken the party too far to the left, I foresee a vicious battle for leadership which will fracture the fragile party structure with vastly different ideas and personalities. The results will be disastrous.
And David, this does raise the question of Liberals, in this case cabinet ministers, leaving what the polls suggest is a sinking ship. How is that factoring in?
It's a fair question, Donna. A couple of points. We're told all these decisions were communicated some time ago and all 4 are leaving for a variety of personal reasons. So take that for what it's worth. And it is normal for a PM in the year before an election to ask his cabinet, who's running again, and then make adjustments. Stephen Harper did it, so have others. But usually it is just 1 minister, 2 ministers that decide to leave. But we've already seen 2 others leave, and they were heavy hitters, Seamus O'Regan and Pablo Rodriguez. So now we've got 6 cabinet ministers leaving. That is a lot. As one veteran Liberal told me this afternoon, it is starting to look like a stampede for the exit. Donna?
Okay, David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. The federal leader of the opposition made a serious accusation yesterday. Pierre Poilievre accused the Prime Minister of lying under oath at the inquiry into foreign interference. Justin Trudeau testified that through highly classified briefings with CSIS, he has the names of past and present Conservative parliamentarians and candidates who are engaged in or at high risk of foreign interference. And he said that members of other parties, including Liberals, have been flagged too. Poilievre would have access to that same secret information if he got the necessary security clearance, yet he continues to refuse to do that. Eric Sorensen looks at whether his explanation stands up to scrutiny.
A year ago, Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre made it clear why he would not take part in classified briefings.
We're not going to allow the government to silence leaders of the opposition by swearing them to secrecy on this matter of grave public importance.
This matter is foreign interference. And on Wednesday, the Prime Minister, testifying under oath, revealed intelligence that says there were Conservatives engaged in or at risk around foreign interference. He said a Poilievre's decision not to be briefed
is bewildering to me and entirely lacks common sense.
In a statement, Poilievre claims the Prime Minister was making it up, that Trudeau could release the names of all MPs that have collaborated with foreign interference, but he won't because, says Poilievre, he's lying. But is Poilievre leaving himself in the dark? Poilievre said his chief of staff received classified briefings this week and was not told of any Conservatives knowingly participating in foreign interference. But the former head of CSIS says a chief of staff wouldn't necessarily be told nor be able to act on it.
The person in that role is not the leader of the party. He wouldn't necessarily be provided with information about the activities of members of parliament.
And Ward Elcock adds right now Poilievre can't be told without security clearance.
The reality is, to get access to secret intelligence, you need a clearance.
The Conservatives insist security clearance could prevent Poilievre from taking action in his own caucus.
With respect to our security experts, they don't know how parliamentary parties function. They don't know how parliamentary parties work and where the boundaries are between the leader's power and the power of the caucus at large.
And this former aide says Poilievre is standing firm to force the government to act.
I think the leader of the opposition probably feels emboldened in his position by the fact that the government is politicizing this issue so significantly.
But Poilievre is increasingly alone among party leaders. The Bloc Québécois leader held out for a time, but his office says he's in the final steps of getting security clearance. And the NDP's Jagmeet Singh says he has not been prevented from speaking out because he was briefed. He says Poilievre is just trying to protect his party over his country.
I can't understand why Pierre Poilievre refuses to get information that could protect the lives of Canadians, that could protect the sanctity of our democracy.
If there are current or former Conservative parliamentarians or candidates involved in foreign interference, for now the leader of the opposition is not getting a security briefing on it and doesn't want one. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
The U.S. has charged a former Indian intelligence officer who, it's alleged, directed a foiled plot to kill a Sikh separatist leader in New York City last year. Vikash Yadav, who remains at large, is wanted on murder for hire and conspiracy to commit murder for hire. The plot was first disclosed by prosecutors last year when they announced charges against Nikhil Gupta, who was arrested and extradited from the Czech Republic to the U.S. It's alleged Yadav recruited him to arrange the assassination. The U.S. had refrained from charging Yadav in the 16 months since that plot was foiled, but has grown frustrated with India's failure to aggressively investigate it. Israel's Prime Minister says the IDF has killed the man considered to be the architect of the October 7th attacks, Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar.
Banu ito cheshbon.
Today, we have settled the score, Benjamin Netanyahu announced. He calls this the beginning of the day after Hamas. It is Israel's biggest victory in the war against Hamas. Sinwar, who was 61, was born in a Gaza refugee camp. His family, one of more than 700,000 Palestinians displaced in the 1948 war when Israel won independence. He spent more than 2 decades in Israeli prisons. Israel has wanted him dead for years. But as Redmond Shannon reports, this does not mean the war in Gaza is over.
Drone footage showing what Israel's military says are the final moments of the man they had spent a year hunting down. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar throwing a plank of wood at the drone in a building in southern Gaza. The head of Israel's armed forces congratulated his troops at the site Thursday. But this was not a targeted assassination. Israel says it was an operation to kill 3 suspected militants. One of them turned out to be the man Israel says planned the October 7th attacks. In Israel, some celebrations, the announcement coming on the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. In Gaza, some mourned Sinwar. This man says when other Hamas leaders were killed, the war went on. He expects this to be no different. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised as much. On Thursday, an Israeli airstrike reportedly killed more than 20 people in northern Gaza. Israel blamed Sinwar for the lack of a new hostage deal. Netanyahu promised that anyone who hands over hostages will be allowed to go free.
Is there anyone in Gaza that still holds the keys, so speaking, that you could, do a deal to bring the hostages? Or are we dealing in a situation where that you have hostages that are scattered in different places, they are being held by different people?
Many of the 101 hostages still in Gaza are feared dead. Families say this is an opportunity to save those still alive.
It is critical that all attention is focused now on achieving the goal of the deal, which will secure the release of our son Omer and the rest of the hostages.
Sinwar himself was part of a prisoner swap in 2011 when more than 1,000 Palestinians were exchanged for Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit. Whether Sinwar's death will trigger a new exchange may depend on who succeeds him. Donna?
Redmond Shannon in London, thanks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky looked for support today from European leaders. He addressed a summit in Brussels, pushing for a major increase in military support and once again an immediate invitation to join NATO.
An invitation now with membership later will have no political cost. It's a strong decision that requires nothing but determination.
NATO membership is key to Zelensky's victory plan, and he says the only reliable path for Ukraine's security. Zelensky also met with NATO defense ministers today. The alliance says it is working to get Ukraine closer to membership, but declined to commit to a timeline. With the U.S. presidential election fast approaching, the two candidates, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, are making last-ditch attempts to convince undecided voters and appeal to voters they have been struggling to connect with. The candidates are taking some unconventional approaches to get their message across. Reggie Cicchini reports.
There's little time left to change the few remaining minds.
My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
For the Democratic presidential nominee, whose message has struggled to resonate far and wide, Kamala Harris stepped into the lion's den with an appearance on Fox News.
I represent a new generation of leadership.
This was a far different atmosphere than Harris has grown used to, in stark contrast to interviews done with Donald Trump, who's afforded time for his streams of consciousness, where Harris was interrupted repeatedly.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House.
Interviews like that are determined from the top. And they wanted to rip her to shreds. They tried to do it. They did not succeed.
The pit stop on the campaign trail comes as Harris has worked to introduce herself to those outside the Democratic base.
I refuse to live in fear of the bad guys.
Using non-traditional platforms to micro-target voters.
Ask Donald Trump what his plan is for Black America.
But it's her sit-down with Fox News that allowed her to speak directly to Trump's devoted followers and to call out a misrepresentation of Trump's words when he talks about turning the military on critics.
That clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within.
Harris worked to appeal to what few wary Republicans may exist, unnecessary in a race at the knife's edge.
They're emptying out mental institutions. They're emptying out insane asylums.
As for Trump, his rhetoric feeds the most loyal, but has created friction with those thinking about leaving.
I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote.
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump.
She had to do it. She didn't have a choice.
By speaking with Fox, Harris risked a political bruise, but also the potential for a warrior's scar. Reggie Cicchini, Global News, Washington.
There is more detail about the sudden death of former One Direction band member Liam Payne. An autopsy has revealed he died from multiple traumas following a fall from a third-floor hotel balcony in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Tenemos un huésped que está sobrepasado de droga.
That's a 911 call from a hotel worker asking police for help managing a guest who the hotel says had overindulged on drugs and alcohol and was tearing up their hotel room. Investigators say they found Payne's room in complete disarray, various items they say broken and over-the-counter drugs strewn about. The investigation is continuing, but evidence suggests he was alone at the time of his death.
He spent his entire adult life in the spotlight. And that is very difficult. The phenomenon that was One Direction, I don't think you can truly understand what it was like to be at the centre of that unless you were one of the five members.
Payne's family released a statement today saying they're heartbroken following the singer's sudden death, adding he will be remembered for his kind, funny, and brave soul. Speaking out against a landmark deal coming up why Indigenous leaders are being urged to vote against Ottawa's child welfare compensation proposal. There's breaking news out of Calgary. First Nations chiefs have voted to reject an historic child welfare agreement intended to help remedy decades of underfunding that led to thousands of Indigenous children and youth being taken into government care. There was mixed support for the nearly $50 billion proposal, including concern it might do more harm than good. Heather Yurix West on why the deal has been rejected.
Draft resolution number 1 does not carry, so is defeated.
After 2 days of emotional and at times heated debate, First Nation chiefs from across Canada have voted to reject a $47.8 billion proposal to reform the First Nations Child and Family Services Program. The proposed agreement with the Canadian government followed a 17-year legal case and an order from the courts. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal offering reform and compensation over the government's chronic underfunding of on-reserve child and family services. But Cindy Blackstock, who has been at the forefront of this legal fight, was among those urging chiefs not to support the plan.
The agreement as it is right now has so many loopholes for government to get out of its commitments and to resume its discrimination against children.
Advocates like Ashley Botch, who was taken from her home on the Miski-Ogamong First Nation at birth and adopted by a white family in BC, argued in support of the proposal.
This agreement is a once-in-childhood agreement because if we take too long, we're going to lose another generation. If we wait years and years for a perfect settlement agreement, they won't be kids anymore, and they'll be like me.
There are an estimated 40,000 First Nations children currently in government care. It was hoped the multi-billion-dollar reform plan would bring that number dramatically down by fixing systemic problems, keeping kids from remaining in their homes. Heather Yurex-West, Global News, Calgary.
Ahead, a new state-of-the-art facility in Canada and how it could impact cancer treatment. A new state-of-the-art manufacturing facility is opening its doors in Ontario. It is the largest facility in Canada dedicated to cell and gene therapies and will work on developing improved treatments for things like cancer and cardiovascular diseases. Catherine Ward explains.
This brand new high-tech facility is hoping to supercharge the way cell and gene therapies are developed in Canada. Its goal to get medications to market faster and cheaper.
We've put in so many years of preparation and work and investment to getting this up and running.
It can produce CAR-T medications, which are tailored to an individual cancer patient's genes.
The process of making them, it really involves specialized technicians in hospitals to draw a patient's blood, take this to a specialized laboratory to reprogram those cells and arm them to be readministered to the patient as a therapeutic product.
Production will kick into high gear on Friday. Welcome news for Wilson Chow, who will be working in one of the labs.
It's great to be a part of something that is going to expand that here in Canada.
Anyone accessing the facility needs to wear a suit like this one. These clean rooms are pressurized so no dirt or dust can get inside. And the air inside the lab is replaced entirely every minute. The whole facility is built to streamline manufacturing, in part using artificial intelligence and robotics like the ones seen here.
It'll allow them to optimize their products, reduce cost, and get more access to patients for these specialized therapies that are, in some cases, curative.
This is the room where the automatic filler device will go. The robot is 20 feet tall. One of its jobs is filling vials with different drug products. A human can do 200 to 300 in an hour. A robot can do 2,500. The need for specialized gene and cell therapy manufacturing is growing.
These take highly specialized facilities that until now or until the last 5 years or so just have not been very prominent in the Canadian landscape. And this has an impact for providing therapies once they are approved for patients.
We get the benefit of knowing that there's a patient at the end of everything that we do. And that's really motivating for us and for our staff.
Catherine Ward, Global News, Toronto.
Hi, I am Teamy AI.
Next, could this avatar powered by artificial intelligence be your new colleague? Technology is evolving so fast that businesses have to rapidly adapt to stay relevant. Remote work and using chatbots to interact with clients are standard now. An employee at a British tech company is taking it a step further, using AI to do both. She has turned herself into a digital assistant. It's a bit weird, yet kind of impressive. Heidi Petracek looks at where this is all headed.
Hi, I am Teamy AI.
You've heard of TMI. Well, this is TIMI, Teamy, an avatar powered by artificial intelligence that looks and sounds like the real Teamy, who lives in Hungary.
And now we have someone who can replace me at least some part of the process, how we are working with our customers.
The company behind the technology, Antavo, went to great lengths to create Timi Garai's digital self, right down to how she blinks. Computer training it with her years of experience to help clients in real time.
Hey, Timi AI, can you help me understand this workflow here?
Absolutely. This workflow manages customer interactions after a purchase.
Okay, so Timi AI is a little stiff, but it is raising eyebrows and questions. Is the whole thing a little TMI after all?
What happens when she leaves a company? Does she have rights to the use of her face, her image, her voice?
There are implications here for the future of work as we know it. Could there be a day where instead of coming into the studio for work, I could send my avatar instead to a completely virtual workspace?
It's not what we would have predicted 10 years ago.
Canadian Nobel Prize winner Geoffrey Hinton has repeatedly warned AI could take over if it becomes too intelligent. Chat assistants can also be hacked. But this digital anthropologist doesn't think we'll all be replaced anytime soon.
Machines can never think like humans because they're machines. They don't have the history, they don't have the biology, they don't have everything that makes us human beings.
Although Timi AI can speak 80 languages, there are some things it still can't do. Off its coffee machine, you're safe. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
80 languages. Okay, got some work to do. That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Dinsdale Park in Brandon, Manitoba. We'd love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Jeff Semple will be at the anchor desk tomorrow, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.